Simon, Iain, welcome to Trade Finance Talks. Here we are in London at the World Trade Symposium by Finastra and the World Trade Board. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
So Simon, what have been the highlights of the World Trade Symposium today?
Yeah, I guess you start with the low light, which is the first call to action was everything around Ukraine. It is a humanitarian crisis, it is a security crisis, and of course it's a shock to oil and food supply. So that was front and center from the beginning of the day. In terms of the highlights, then, is how we approach those kind of lowlights, which is to acknowledge that there is a huge trade finance problem still, $1.7 trillion gap. There's still 50 million or 65 million, I think was the McKinsey number, of capital constrained SMEs who are experiencing 50, 75% rejection rates. So I think now the call to action is as high, if not higher, than it's ever been.
Simon, we've seen inflation, a humanitarian crisis, as you said earlier, recovery from the pandemic and the increasing trade finance gap, and much of this is putting immense pressure on the unbanked as well as small to medium-sized businesses, particularly those that are women-owned in emerging and developing markets. What can companies like Finastra do to help?
Yeah, so as you rightly said, first of all, you have to recognize there is a problem. I think it was Natalie from the IFC who said that the rejection rate is on average 50% for women-backed entrepreneurs or SMEs. It was 70%. So we can do a number of things. First of all is the general approach to making sure that finance is available. I think Charlie from the ICC spoke about being universal and meaningful. Right, that's what it means to be universal and meaningful. And through our technology, which maybe Iain can say a few words about, we need to make sure that there's no bias. It shouldn't be that women are 70% penalized when the average is 50. I mean, it's a bias in the process.
Anything to add, Iain?
No, I think Simon nailed it exactly. I mean, I think that this bit about bias, and we've seen it from the ADB reports, we've seen it all through, the last 2 years of 2019 report, the 2021 report. We've seen a 15% uplift in the trade finance gap, and that was prior to Ukraine and prior to the, the tensions that the problems we see as a result of that. So it's we need to, there really is a call for action to move forward.
Iain, the outset of the COVID pandemic rapidly accelerated progress on many digital trade initiatives, and that's what we used to talk about, but what's happening now and what are you seeing in the markets?
So I think what we saw COVID was a real accelerant in regards to digitization. We talked to banks across the world. They went in the space of a couple of days from having all of their staff in the office to all of their staff being remote and being able to deal with that. But also their customers were remote as well. And being able to, we talked to the heads of trade services and getting physical signatures, moving documents. I joke that a head of trade services that I know told me that he knows his couriers better than he knows his staff to some extent just now. But what we saw was a major push on digitization. But what we also see now is that adoption of the digitization and the real questions around about how do we bring those various networks and those various solutions together. And that's where we as Finastra, we look to that. We talk about open by default, we talk about our connection, we talk about our Fusion Fabric.cloud strategy, and we talked about it here today as well.
Simon, Finastra is the host of this year's World Trade Symposium. What is the main message that you would like to get out to the global trade community through your role in this event?
I think there's a number of messages. I'll pick it up where Iain left off, which is around speed. John Denton, who's the Secretary General of the ICC, his call to action was the word fast. And he pinged me a little text message afterwards saying, this is a dark moment in our lives. We need to move from admiring the problem to actually getting on to resolving the problem collectively. We often argue that collaboration is the new innovation. We can't do it on our own. It requires all of the people in the room and beyond to work together. But speed is going to be of the essence. On the topic of standards, another board member pinged me a note saying it comes down to three things: adopt them, promote them, or contribute to them. But the message is fast.
Simon, Iain, thank you very much for joining me on Trade Finance Talks and at the World Trade Symposium. Thanks for hosting us.
Our pleasure.